If you just wanted pizza, we could have just brought it in, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry not to take it.
If you wanted pizza, I mean,
It's still in there,
all I do is
though.
just bring it in.
Yeah, I remember.
All of the caramel brownies looked
Say, how
good.
were they?
I didn't have one, but I looked by and went, yeah.
I would have.
I'd have heartburn all night.
I know.
Okay, let's resume from our car. Is there anything we can provide, any clarifications, questions?
At this point in time, I think that we're, the numbers that, I think that until we're ready to sit down and actually look at a proposal, I think we need to move on to a different topic.
And you're not ready to do that?
We will not do that yet. We will wait. We will wait.
Wait for us
We'll
to
wait
make
for
a
yours.
proposal?
That's traditionally how it's been.
So you spit that out. We need to know that. Last time we talked, you had said clear back meetings ago that you guys were gonna bring the offer. So we've been sitting tight waiting for you guys to bring an offer.
It's at
If
last,
the practice is for the district to make that offer,
I-
then all we need to know is that.
I don't believe I said that, but if I did, I knew that, I said that we wanted numbers, we needed numbers so we could figure, part of negotiations is to have that and, because, so.
Okay, well, then yeah, let's just get started, because we aren't going anywhere until we get this worked through, so we can work through even the rest of the stuff, because that, isn't a lot of this stuff all based on that?
Some of it is, yep.
So clearly the conversation goes back to the new dollars. And I think that's probably where we need to have, most of our conversation. I believe absolutely we have that $800,000 as new money coming in. That $800,000, we've got to figure out how equitably to distribute that. It's not something, I've got classified staff and administrative staff and other expenses that we've also got to look at. But we want my goal, Jim, I've said that to this group, is to do the very best that we can. We know that a movement on the salary schedule alone is at least a 2% increase to everybody, just to keep the same salary schedule and allow steps, and then of course obviously allow those lanes for anybody that can qualify. So that's 2%, and that's roughly $400,000 or so. So the remaining dollars and stuff, really, there's only $400,000 left out of that $800,000, and that's our challenge, is we've got to be able to address all the other rest of the new expenses with that, because the rest of those dollars that are coming in are all related to student enrollments, and that ties into new FTEs that the district has hired to address those new enrollments and provide new services and additional services. So we want to do the very best that we can. So let's just talk. I think certainly we need a little bit left of that remaining $400,000 to be able to address our classified staff. So I feel like we can't quite do a full additional 2%, but it could be, something. I think like a 1.5% on TFFR in addition to the steps, that adds that's about roughly in people's take-home checks, a little closer to 2% when you don't have to deal with the FICA and those other things. So that's why we felt like that was a better avenue. So let's just start talking, I guess. I'm not sure what we want to continue to wait on.
Let me ask you a question about current budget.
Yes. And if I can't answer all, I'll tell you, and we'll have to wait
Absolutely.
if we can.
Based upon what you're looking at right now, are you anticipating a rollover into of revenue?
We will not. I'm anticipating we'll have to do an amended budget because there were some purchases this year that we didn't even plan on, like busing. an extra bus that we purchased and some things like that. So it's very, the previous, the conversations leading up to this, we're anticipating we're gonna have to amend what we've already proposed for a working budget. But again, you can certainly verify that tomorrow morning with Kent, but we've had those initial conversations.
Do you know approximately how much you're gonna amend that budget by?
No, no, I don't. I know that we ended up purchasing a third bus that we hadn't planned on, so that's, $150,000-ish. And that's really probably the bigger item that we didn't specifically plan on. But as you know, in past practice, the district they have probably been a little more conservative in some of their budgeting estimates. And so some of the previous year's budgets that I've analyzed, the district has maybe started off the year with a $700,000 deficit that they budget for, and at the end of the year, there's $1 million moved into the reserve account or something. So that's a $1.7 million swing. We recognize that, and that is not that's not our goal. We know we're taking a chance on that because we end up having to do some budget transfers at the end of the year. But we have been much more tight on that budget this year. I think that's why when you ask Kent questions about a $25 million or $4 million difference on a sheet or whatever, he needs to dig deeper to find that because we're making a transition in how we're operating. I would love for other people to say, hey, you know what about this or that, and find an efficiency or something in the budget that we're not, that we don't see. Our intent, again, as I keep saying, we're not hiding any money anywhere moving forward, if indeed that's ever happened in the past. So we are planning to, but because of that, and because of creating some pretty tight budgets that we did this year, we're already, even though a bus is only maybe 150, and some would say you should have had enough fluff in other areas to cover that, I know that Mr. Anderson has already talked to me about the need to go to the board and have a revised budget before the school year is out, before July 1. So
What is
that's outside.
the current amount in the reserve account?
It's, I believe, about $9-point-something million. And the reason I know that, Jim, is the board had possibly committed about 5 of that to help fund an elementary school when we went to the that may be in the district, in the building fund. The building fund account has 9.9, of which 4, there was 3 or 4 has already been obligated for things like the HVAC updates at Heart River, and for some of those other,
It's over 4.
over 4. So basically that account went down to about 6, and the board had said we would possibly spend 5 if we needed to. The district reserve account then should be closer to that, maybe 15.
There you go. Okay.
Something like that
Would-
in that reserve account, and that's where they had also kind of prior had obligated about 5 of that to help build an elementary school.
So are you saying that the board was going to do 5 million out of that account and 5 million out of the other one?
Yes.
So for 10 million total?
Yes, that was the most that they could contribute to an elementary school.
Okay. Here's my concern, in regards to that, because we've been told in the past, and like Mr. Schoringer said, we have no money, we have no money, we have no money. And then in the last negotiation cycle, were very generous, and we agreed. And what was indicated to us did not happen. And we still, in that 2-year time period, rolled over $1.06 million and $846,000 after being told we don't have money, and we settled at a very small percentage.
And the previous year, after we were told we don't have anything, we rolled over 2.5 the previous year.
So you have to understand that we're very skeptical. And I know that's a different administration, I know that's a different school board. But you have to understand, historically, we're very skeptical. We believe there's money there.
And that's fair. But I think it's also fair to recognize you're the #1 average teacher salary in the entire state. So even though maybe some of that has happened in the past and we cannot address it, we can only move forward. We've got to move forward. So I think that, doesn't that bring us to this conversation about what is the new dollars coming in? How do we equitably, share those out? And Jim, we're as concerned as you guys are. We won't meet with the health committee until next week.
Yep.
And we know that hypothetically, if we were to adopt the recommendation from Hayes on our health insurance increases, that would eat up all $800,000 of the new dollars that we've got coming in the first place. So, and that's just the district's 80%. So yeah, we're super concerned about all of that. But based on all of that, we still want to do the very best we can for our teachers, and that's where we know movement on the salary schedule is 2%. That's $400,000. And another 1.5% is almost close to 2 if it was to be added to salary versus TFFR. So you can, almost say you're saving 2% because your checks are going to be even bigger with the TFFR contribution. And so you get, 2.5%. And we can certainly, we agreed as well to kind of put the length of the contract towards the bottom of our negotiations. If we want to just do a 1 year something, I'm fine. We want to build the trust, Jim. We have to. We got to start somewhere, and we just. I know you've been stung in the past, or at least that's the perception, and perception's the reality for folks.
It's not the perception. We have the proof.
Well, you do, but you're also the number one paid. How do you answer to that?
Well, we have, over the course of the last few years, started to hire TOSAs, teachers on special assignment, who were basically assistant principals, who they were not in the classroom, yet their salaries are reported on teacher salaries and benefits. You yourself just said the job coaches, or the technology coaches, are TOSAs. They're not teachers in a classroom. We've looked at, the positions.
Reading coaches,
Okay, reading
Or-
coaches.
Interventionists.
interventionists, or.
We have
in the district,
people who are,
there's
go ahead,
the
sorry.
special ed coordinators. They're all on the teacher salary.
So that, of course, is going to bump it. Now, does it look great that we're number one? Does that allow us to attract people applying for jobs? Yes, it's wonderful. We have people who are part-time teachers, part-time administrators, but their whole salary comes out of teacher salaries and benefits. It's reported. We've gotten those things. It's all reported. So, yeah, that's going to boost those numbers up.
The average teacher salary?
Sure. Because those are people typically who are getting paid really well, yet they're not in a classroom. And they're in that pool of teacher salaries and benefits. So that obviously is going to drive that up.
Well, and maybe that's the case. The TOSAs are not on any kind of an additional dollar, a dollar amount. They're on the teacher salary schedule, as you said, and it just depends on their skills and abilities as to whether they fulfill those roles. But the 3 new TOSAs that we're hiring this next year, or maybe 4, I guess, which is what the board approved. They're designed to be assistants to the teachers. They're not helping with principals and student discipline or any of that. They're going to be designed to help teachers implement technology strategies. So they'll be a good tool. I would say the same thing with reading coaches. I don't know, the only one TOSA that I was aware of last year. Did we have more than one TOSA last year?
We would
I
have
know
to
we
go
had
back
one,
and
and
look
that was
through it.
Mrs. Weiler, who's now an administrator, and I think she was assigned with title or I'm not sure exactly what she all did last year, but I know she worked with kids and worked with groups.
Primarily was an assistant. I mean, yeah, she had kids.
She had
but-
some kid assignments. which right now the assistant principal doesn't have, right?
On paper.
Right.
And I know Mr. Michelson is in there, and he's half-time with doing activities and so forth. And I believe that when reading coaches were first hired, they were hired as TOSAs as well. I believe, but I might be wrong on
reading
that.
coaches?
The reading coaches, but I might be wrong. Because that was a while ago.
Okay. Well, and the same, I mean, I hear what you're
Right.
saying, the same, school psychologists, they're on, teacher salary schedules.
Counselors are on-
There's basically
Yeah,
the three
counselors are there
categories,
too,
either administrative,
with
classified,
masters
or teacher, that's,
Yeah.
it's always, everybody's one of those, one of those three, so.
So as the district has put something on the table, where does that go from here?
Where does that go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here with
Well,
that
we
offer
are-
on the table?
We are not ready to counter at all. We'd like to look and see where, if we will not be counter offering tonight.
Well, that's fine, at least we're making a little progress, I guess. And certainly we'll get to the point in the agenda to schedule the next meeting. So shall we talk maybe about a couple other things on here? Is there anything else on here in that grouping that we would like to?
Just to clarify, you said 1.5%.
No, that's not,
to
that's something else, you're right.
That's not.
Yes, which would be,
1.5 to
It's
TFFR.
occurring.
and steps.
Okay.
And steps and lanes for those that qualify, which would equal another 2%. So essentially, in your paychecks and stuff, you would see really close to 4%. That 1.5 TFFR, because it comes out pre-taxed and you don't have to pay the FICA, it would be about the same as if we went the other route. But we can do that because we don't have to pay that FICA as well. If we went to go to if you wanted it on the salary and stuff, we'd be closer to 1.25. We'd have to go the other way because the FICA hit has got to come out somewhere.
And then if it's a 2-year contract, are you suggesting 1.5 both of us, or is this just 1 year?
We can have that
Or-
conversation. Yeah,
Or were you
if
thinking
we,
increasing it the second year, because there might be more aid?
we know that there's an additional 2% coming in. So it would seem very reasonable if this was a 2-year contract, we would need a caucus and make sure we're all good, but it would seem to me like absolutely. If that works in year 1, why wouldn't it work in year 2, as long as as long as everything's all the same? It shouldn't be a problem. We're getting 2% new in the second year. The state's already approved that biennium. My understanding is they've only ever one time changed that amount. So we should absolutely anticipate that. So if everything else is in the liking of the group and they would like to do 2 years, then you betcha we could have that conversation to see if that's able to repeat that the second year. So essentially,
asking.
yeah, no, that's
For
good.
sure.
Great questions. Good questions.
And when you said steps, were you talking about the career increment things that we talked
On-
about
on-
last time?
well,
Or
that's
just normal
the-
steps?
Just normal steps.
Maintaining the
Maintain.
current steps and
Okay, gotcha.
lanes and steps and lanes.
I'm kind of waiting on Jay and Jim and to discuss there's the career increment piece.
Yeah,
That we
the
we're
addition,
trying to
that's
clean that up a little bit
Yeah.
for people. And yes, we still want to clean that up for everybody if that works for everybody.
Okay.
So, okay, shall we then move on then to a couple other items, Jim? Do you want to, we have about 25 minutes. Want to take advantage of the best time?
We can do that. We can do that. Wherever you want to go next.
Well, I see you still working with the calculator and I don't want
No.
to take that away from
No,
you. so-
I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, let me switch gears here then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. If you would like, we can take professional organizational dues off the table. That'll get that off the mix.
Okay? And I know that, again, with TFFR and even the workday discussions, it's all gonna depend upon where we come in at with everything. So I'm assuming we wanna probably not talk about the workday, or do you wanna talk about that?
Are you
Yeah.
tying workday to money?
No, we figured you were. We just figured that, yeah, in order to make that, if your offer was, if we were not anywhere, you wouldn't want to do that. But if you were somewhere, you would do that. As we said, this is part of the whole clarification of that PLC time, to make sure that that's clarified. And so we can talk about that right now if you want.
Well, and we did do some language to try to, because of the concern about mandatory and will collaborative team time grow and that. And so we did try to clean up some language to see whether we could take care of some of those concerns. So let's.
Have you already got one?
What the biggest change, that we added the professional under 3. We added the language professional collaboration time, understanding that assigned collaboration time is not to exceed 75 minutes per week. Which is, and as we said, authentic professional learning communities, the recommended time is 60 minutes per week. But given the fact that we do a super block with the elementaries, which sometimes does exceed that 60 minutes a little bit, but it's every 6 days instead of every 5, we just said we took what you kind of said, Jim, that 15 minutes per day is 75 minutes per week. It can't exceed that. And so that does protect the other prep time during the week. So hopefully that was able to relieve some concerns that could grow and become unfair to the teachers as far as.
I will say this, that of anything that we have right now proposed and has been discussed amongst teachers.
Okay, so what was the rationale again for going from 7 3/4 to 8? The extra 15 minutes per day. What was the rationale?
There was a couple of rationale I think that was given. One, it's a standard workday. So when you look at what a standard workday traditionally in about any industry as a professional, the professional standard workday is 8 hours. That 15 minutes does provide for some opportunity with the way we structure the day within the day. But the main rationale, I believe, was it standardizes to what industry standards are across a professional world. 8-hour workday is pretty standard.
Okay. There was also something about cost savings. How is adding 15 hours to a teacher workday
15
going
minutes.
to
15 minutes.
Did I say 15 hours?
It's just our normal work
The
day.
last 2 days have been 15 hours, but okay. How is adding 15 minutes going to save money?
And again, I'll let Dr. Hawker address that. He indicated that there could be a potential cost savings there. I believe the rationale that I gave was by adding those 15 minutes, it does allow us to have some flexibility with what we do with the paraprofessionals and how we utilize the paraprofessionals at the beginning or end of the day.
And how would
How
we
would
do
you?
that
Yeah. How would we utilize? What would we do differently?
with them? And the reason why we're asking is that we actually do have members who are paraprofessionals, and they're very concerned about it too.
Okay.
So,
I think what was.
Because their workday would be extended, or?
No.
They would.
Subtracted by 15.
Yep, their workday
15 or
would
30.
be reduced.
What the thought was, again, if we could utilize 15 minutes of a teacher's day, let's say that was at the end of the day, we could move paraprofessionals who are working that at the end of the day time into the day, and we could actually utilize them so they provided instructional support during instructional time instead of duty support at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Who would take over duty support?
That could be teachers, that could be rotated through teachers, those types of things.
I know
It just
that,
gives us some
yeah.
flexibility, and I can't really say because it would definitely depend on the building and the needs and those types of things.
I know that
Again,
was-
I think the cost savings is probably something that we would hope we could achieve. It's not the main reason or rationale for the suggested
So
change
it
in
wasn't
language.
like, we want to add 15 minutes to the teacher's day so that we can reduce 15 minutes on our
No.
paras.
No,
That's
So we
not
can
the
Shift the
intention.
save
schedule.
money.
Totally.
That's not the
Shift-
intention.
Shift the
Okay.
schedule.
And I do know it was a concern too, I mean, in the elementary, that I can speak for that, but it's hard to imagine, you know, if I'm doing homework club or working with students after school, to take me out of my room while I'm working with students to do bus duty, that would probably defeat the purpose.
That
of-
would be stupid.
That, yeah.
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's
So
where
I
I'm
don't,
like,
I don't think that
how-
requires us to be stupid.
yeah,
The value that you're bringing through your homework club and that, I think it would be ill-advised for your building administrator to tell you, you know what, now that we've got 15 minutes, you're no longer gonna be helping kids. We're gonna have you go stand on the sidewalk. I think that would be ill-advised, and that's not the intention of this.
but when teachers are finished with their workday, even if they don't have students, they're still looking at preparing for the next day and doing those things, and
Yeah.
so if they're taken to do bus duty and those things, then you see what I'm saying, like, there's concern there,
Sure,
you know, because
certainly understand.
Of all the things that have come up,
Okay.
we've gotten more emails, more comments on this.
Okay,
And, you know, we look here, comment was made, there are some districts at 7.5 hours, some at 7 3/4 hours.
and lots of them at 8.
Well, some, but I've been to many, many, many schools as a coach, and I always look at their school schedule, and none of them have kids as long as I do. There isn't a high school out there that I look at their schedule and go, holy buckets. You're starting at 8:15 and you're done at 3:15. And, I mean, I just,
You just have to look at those schedules deep, Jay. They-
I've
lots of
looked
those-
at it, I've
lots
looked
of
at
those
them
folks
deep.
don't have 90-minute prep periods every day. They have 45-minute prep periods every day. They're on 7-period days. There's so many variables to look
I
at.
totally get that, but 15 minutes, pretty much every teacher is there working and volunteering all that time anyway, to force them to say, you have to do this, and next, no, I don't think we agree with it. I don't think if we went to this, I hate to, you could probably, I'd probably have to leave town. Do you agree?
Well, let's.
That was
talk
the
about
number one.
Let's talk about the verbiage of number 3. Does the verbiage in number 3 help alleviate the concerns there?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, not to exceed 75.
I'm fine with
how-
the verbiage.
I would,
on that one.
the only, I know that we have the / professional collaboration time. I would put a period there, then say, understanding that assigned professional collaboration time will not exceed 75 minutes per week.
We could do that. I don't have any problem with that at all. If that cleans it up and clarifies that. And then let's have the conversation about the 15 minutes. Yeah, I don't know whether
That's
that
not
needs to be a
right,
drill, what's that?
I don't think that's a sentence.
I'm not an English major.
Neither am I, but I don't think it's a sentence.
Professional
it-
collaboration.
Professional-
We'll change it to say it is
Shall
understood.
not exceed 75 minutes per
Okay,
week.
it is understood.
How about we go professional collaboration time period, and then we can say it is understood that assigned collaboration time is not to exceed,
75 minutes per week.
is that, and maybe that's not even good language, but what do you guys?
It's a start.
I'll see whether Word gives me a red squiggly line underneath it or a blue squiggly line.
No.
Okay, so then with this, so number 2
Number
could stay the same, just, we won't need to change anything, leave that at 5 and a half. I guess
That
went
would
down a
remain a
quarter.
5.5 if we took
And
the
then what
15
about-
minutes out of the.
Yeah, what about number
verbiage.
1, just changing that 8-hour shift to a 7 3/4, like it is now?
And it still allows,
That still gives
It
us
still allows
Flexibility.
flexibility,
I mean, for
but we
example-
can, go ahead.
so for example, last spring at the high school, they wanted, a group of kids inquired about having an early science class. One of our teachers volunteered, said, yeah, I'll teach that. And went in and taught an early science class and.
And put
you
in
know,
their hours.
And we
an hour
didn't,
early.
we didn't have to, we just did it. And
That's the
And I
goal.
think that would even make it easier with this. I think it would be wonderful to have that flexibility.
You know, that's the goal, and we do not want to, my goal of changing it 8 hours, number one, that a lot of districts had it 8 hours. But number two, many of our teachers are already working it, and so I just didn't think it was that big of a deal. If you're receiving issues, let's not do it. I really am, that's.
we would
don't
prefer to
want
keep 7 3/4.
That is
And,
fine.
and we're fine with number 3, would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, with the typo
Sarah?
change of fixing that into
Yeah.
a real sentence.
Fixing number, I mean,
I
Fi-
can
making
fix
it
the
a complete
verbiage and we
sentence,
can go to
but-
7 3/4.
And then we'll change that 8 up in number 1 to 7 3/4. And we'll get rid of the red 5 3/4 in number 2 and change that back to 5 1/2. And we'll bring this back at our next meeting. And-
that would be wonderful.
That would work for us.
Maybe a
Does that work?
agreement.
That would,
Is okay?
that,
Yes.
Well,
I
thank you.
mean, that was, we're already doing, we're already making, arrangements to be their places early and so forth, so, but that was one of the things that we did hear very, very strongly from our
Fair enough.
members.
Okay. I can make those changes.
Okay, thank you. Well, then essentially that kind of concludes the C part of that grouping anyway. And we're still talking about salaries then and TFFR, and you've taken professional organizational dues off to not talk about. So shall we just keep moving down the list? Is that okay? Is there anything else specific? We got about 8 or 10 minutes left. Is there anything specific we'd like to talk? Maybe let's just do that. Keith, I think you have a handout too for the, or do I? Hold on.
On which
For the
one?
vacancies and transfers.
I have some proposed language, but
I think you do have it. I had a note here for you, because I don't think I printed that. And this one I need.
Do you have an extra?
I'll just,
So we can-
oh,
Yeah,
sure.
we have
Okay.
I actually made a couple extra.
Okay, so for the table, this is the discussion for the notices of vacancies. We're certainly trying to automate and create some quicker efficiencies with the online system that we have with, what's the name of that program that we're using now? Can't even remember the name, but ASOP, yes, thank you. Frontline.
Frontline.
Same thing, basically. No, so yes, thank you. So we would like to not always just. I mean, the reality is number 2 on the item already gives us an out. It really does. We would just prefer to recognize that and not the 10-day school thing up in number 1. It's we're to the point now where jobs are so competitive and we're needed to move so fast that we're just gonna have to jump to number 2 most of the time anyway. So we want to clean that up and clarify where those jobs will be announced and make sure our teachers are all aware of those announcements. So that's the update of item number 1. And then we had conversation, I think the item B, there was some verbiage recommendations in there to make sure we were right on the outgoing principal versus the incoming principal. So we've fixed that and updated that so you can see that in there. I'm happy to go through and read that, but I probably don't need to for you.
If I recall the conversation before, we did discuss, trying to discuss, not 10 days, but fewer days.
We did. We were having those
And-
conversations. We kind of were talking about 5, but we really, the truth is, any days that we can save is a huge plus. We know our teachers that are in-house, they already have a little bit of an advantage from the fact they're aware of some openings within their buildings anyway. We will always post. We would never bill the day we post, so there's always going to be some days of notice. If we wanted to list 1 or 2 days in there, we could probably do that. Otherwise, we're pretty much always going to be doing number 2 anyway, because it's the trickle down effect. It's not even always. Sometimes it is, but it's not even always the very first opening. It's the fact that we post an opening and then a teacher from school B says, okay, cool, I want that. So then they get transferred and now there's a new kind of a 10-day window for that next opening, and it just keeps shuffling. And we're still into middle of May and we've got vacancies. So we need to be able to expedite this much faster.
Logistically, it's cumbersome, it's clunky. And believe it or not, automating and becoming more efficient with our electronic means makes this even more clunky, because now you have to manage the 5 days or the 10 days or whatever it is manually. At the same time, you're trying to integrate that with the new electronic system. And believe it or not, it just makes it even more clunky. And so we'd like to come back with the proposed language to not have those days in there.
For the most part, I think that we're pretty good. However, how long would the internal candidate application be? How
It's
intense?
an abbreviated, because we already have all of their information, it's a very abbreviated application. Megan, you could probably help me with that. On average, what would you think it takes? 10 minutes, 5 minutes for an internal candidate to fill out their?
I would say it's probably about a quarter of what an external candidate fills out, and it's, mainly experience, education or certifications that you would have for that position, kind of listing that if you ever need anything.
Because oftentimes those have been updated in the life of a teacher.
Right.
So we ask for that as some.
But not the insight, not
No.
the questions that they have to
No,
answer.
it's nothing like that. It's
Nothing that was
just-
going to require an extended period of time to sit down and do.
That's correct.
Okay. So could you give a little bit on days? I'm not saying 5. I'm saying, you said 1 or 2. Which would allow the candidate to go home, talk to their spouse, then make the written request, because that written request kind of goes first before the internal application. Because I'm assuming if the internal application occurs, that the principal will be notified almost instantaneously.
Yes.
And then if they would call the other principal and say, okay, what do you think? And they say, well, I didn't know. That would give them a day to make that request and do the internal before. I just
Trying to, I'm not the one that deals with the clunkiness. And so, having to monitor the days that it's been posted and that to make sure that we're meeting the requirements of it, like I say, it just creates some logistics there that, believe it or not, becoming more efficient, but having something that requires the inability to take advantage of that efficiency enhances the clunkiness of it. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think if there's a way that we could put it in here that,
And I'm trying to work with you.
yeah,
I really
I'm trying to
am.
think of a way that we can build that within the automated system so that maybe we just say that there's just a mandatory number of days that a job is open, period. Not just for internal candidates, but we have a mandatory number of days that a job is open,
I mean,
which would give us that same
then we could,
opportunity
yep.
to do that.
And, you know, we could, you know, if you could figure that out and write in here, all jobs will be open for
48 hours.
For
or
48 hours.
something before movement. And then we would still have the number two in the
Talk
case
off the top
of
of my head,
emergency.
and Megan, make sure I can't imagine a time where we would open a job today and fill it tomorrow. Okay. That would never, I don't see that ever happening. So that's why, again, because of automation, I can see 20 years ago, 10 years ago, when we had to post things around the buildings, or
Yeah.
it took time to get the word out. I get that why this was in there, I really do. But today, now with the automation,
Right.
I can't imagine a time where we would ever fill a vacancy that hasn't been posted that fast. I don't know how we'd ever do that.
Right.
You gotta open it first, and that's it.
and I can understand that. I'm just, you know,
Help me with some verbiage.
my concern is, okay, I decide I want to apply for a transfer. I go home and I talk to my wife. I don't have my prep till fourth period, so I don't get a chance to write my consent and do my internal thing, and I send it in and I said, oh, it's already done.
So the concern, you're thinking the concern might be we would already fill the position right
Within
away,
that- within that day.
Within the day of posting it. Okay, well then.
You know, and if you're at a job fair, theoretically, and I'm assuming that's kind of where this is
we
coming
post
from.
those vacancies before we go to a job fair. We know what jobs we're looking
Mm-hmm.
for when we go to the fair.
And if we ever was in a position where we needed to do that, we still have number two, which would give us the ability to do that when we were up against it. Does that make sense? And that's kind of what Dr. Hawker was saying before is, well,
So let's talk about some verbiage about
Yep.
simply just, it is the practice to not fill a position within X amount of days or hours after it's been posted. Whatever you would like to make sure that there's some leeway in there that would certainly take away the concern that we're gonna post it today and fill it tomorrow and haven't had a chance to talk
Right.
about it or anything.
What if we did this, and Megan, please say, Keith, you're stupid, and you'd just be stating the obvious, by the way. What if we, on the first line, said notices of vacancies and new positions will be posted for 48 hours with accompanying job descriptions?
Okay, you're supposed to say.
An announcement on the openings will be emailed to all teachers at the time of the job postings. Megan, what does that do to us? Does it just keep the clunkiness in place, or does that?
I think that's fine if it makes everybody feel more comfortable. I can tell you just trying to assemble an interview team takes more than 48 hours. So, I mean, like you said, the fact that this would ever even be filled within the day or 2 days is probably slim to.
So to me, that's easy. The
So,
job still
okay.
can get posted. You don't have to worry about holding anything or anything. We just have a pretty much a written procedure in here that says we won't fill it within 48 hours. And or whatever that number you guys want. I think 48 hours, 2 days, that's,
I'm okay with that.
Of the email or of the posting?
Technology changes.
well, I think
Notice-
it's kind of both. We're trying to
Says
figure
notice of the
out.
vacancy and new positions will be posted, and what if I insert within 48, or will be posted for 48 hours?
For a
with accompanying
minimum of
job-
48 hours.
For a minimum of 48 hours.
Okay.
I don't know what that does.
Okay, so you said that is gonna go at the end of the sentence?
No, I would insert that, if you look at line 1, notice of vacancies and new positions will be posted for a minimum of 48 hours with accompanying job descriptions on the DPS website.
Okay.
And then,
And the rest,
and we will
announcement
continue
will
to
be
make those
emailed.
announcements to the staff.
Okay.
Does that feel better?
I can live with that.
Okay.
But we'll bring it back next time for obviously better clarification. And then, is there anything more down on B? Remember the last conversation was about the ingoing and outgoing principal. And you
Yeah,
can see the
that's,
mechanics.
There's
you got that.
Couple commas that need to be fixed, and central office should be CAO, to be consistent.
Easy there,
Number 3.
Tiger.
We'll modify the
I-
CAO.
Yeah.
So there's commas,
If denied unsuccessful, you need to take that comma out in the next sentence. If denied unsuccessful, comma, the teacher
Well,
may
denied goes
request.
away and it's changing it to unsuccessful.
If
Successful.
unsuccessful, okay, then you're fine.
Okay, yeah.
yes, yep.
And then up in 2, I want to check to see if after the word request, if you need a comma there.
On
It's
number
not a-
2, after
Oh, where it
reviewing
says-
the requesting teacher's internal.
Yeah, or to grant, okay.
Right,
Well,
but I'll
how
check.
do you check that? What program do you use to see if that's right? Or you just,
Committee.
okay.
So I can eliminate that, that's no problem. I'll double check that one.
Okay,
And you had said something about,
oh, you're okay. Because you're going to take out denied, so then
yes,
you don't
denied
have to
goes
worry
away.
about that one.
Okay.
So if you want to go back to school day, if you don't mind,
I can.
on number 3,
School day.
yeah, I know, it's picky stuff.
No, you're good, thank you for that.
No. On school day, number 3, 45, you don't need 45, you just need 45 in there to be consistent with all of your other numbers. Number 3. on
That's in
school day.
black?
That's what's current, so.
Oh, thank goodness I didn't make that mistake.
Right, no, but
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
could-
saying.
But I
if we-
can-
And we
that
can
up.
clean that, we can clean that.
Well, it needs to be cleaned
yeah,
up.
When you and I do it.
A minimum of 45, get rid of the 45.
Yeah, that's right. There's a whole other agenda item down here for you guys to clean up all the commas. and-
Well, I didn't know if we could do this, and then somebody
Yeah, we can
would
do it
be.
fine.
Okay, and then up on number 1,
Yes, ma'am.
after the word students, you take out that comma too.
You're better English teacher than I am.
Okay,
That's it.
okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay,
I will fix the vacancies and transfers.
how about we
Debrief.
jump to debrief and then, well, I guess we need to schedule the next meeting maybe first and then debrief. Schedule next meeting. What's your wishes?
We can't do Monday.
Sounds fine. Looks like Monday is the middle school 6th grade band concert. Okay. Tuesday,
Wednesday night we can't either because it's the awards
Awards
program.
banquet.
for
Wednesday's
the
awards
exam.
banquet.
okay.
So Wednesday night is out.
Thursday, looks like there's a Dickinson Middle School guitars and drums concert. Does that involve you guys? Don't wanna, okay, so I'm here in a week on Thursday, the 16th. Does that work? Same time, 5:30?
Sure.
Okay,
When is regional track?
Friday.
Friday.
Friday, okay.
Oh my
We
goodness.
host it.
You look at the day I put. Oh. May. It's not April anymore.
okay, we'll schedule that 5:30, 7:30 on May 16th. I think I got that one in there before 12. Okay, let's jump down. What do we got? Agenda topics for next meeting. I'm assuming that's just a carryover of all the items that we currently have. So debrief. We for sure approved the April 29th and May 1st meetings, and then we can popcorn around, or Jim did a good job last time of, well, no, the group, because Jim had to step out, so we relied on everybody to help fill in that debrief. So let's,
So we signed the National Board Certification.
We signed the horizontal movement lane changes. Date.
C is going to be reviewed by the DEA. Professional and organizational dues were taken off the table.
We finalized verbiage for the workday.
And vacancies and transfers. Proposal was made for salary.
Anything else? That looked pretty extensive. You missed anything? Twyla, you got all that? Are we missing anything that to your knowledge? She's zoned out now, it's almost 8 o'clock. Okay, I think that calls it, so we will we'll adjourn this meeting tonight. Thank you very much.
Yeah.